So I asked you guys to show me your enclosures, and I was not disappointed. I got a myriad of different species, indoor and outdoor setups, so let's go through them. Now I got over 100 responses, so I'm not going to show every single setup in this video, otherwise it would be way too long. But I've picked out a few of my favorites as well as some that I think we can all learn from. Let's have a look. So first up, keeping it close to the heart, we have a Boyds forest dragon setup. Now this one's really cool because they've obviously gone out and sourced some really nice natural vines. It just transformed the enclosure to a whole nother level. This looks great. It's got a nice rock background as well. A lot of nice live plants and things. And a few Boyds off in the side here I can see climbing around enjoying it all. Next up, I've seen this enclosure before. This is from my friend Luke over at Beach's Scaly Beasts. He made a great video setting up this enclosure as well. This is for some Ciliaris geckos, I believe. And that plant in there is really cool with all the flowers and things going. I think it's still going pretty strong too. Again, he put me onto this tile pointing method for the background. He's done a pretty good job in this background, I think. And I believe this is a bioactive setup too, so very cool. I know he's got UVB on this and most of his enclosures now as well. So, you know, big tick from me. I love those nice spindly branches. These guys, there's one in the back there. You know, they're all over this, so really cool setup. And next up, this one's for a Stimson's python, and this is actually their first attempt at making a background. And whilst it's, you know, probably not the most naturalistic looking background ever, it is a really good thing to do. You don't have to start off, you know, with something really awesome. This is still going to provide some amazing space for the snake to interact with, get in between those nice deep crevices, use those muscles, and you know, it makes no difference to the snake how pretty it is. But it's a really good, it looks a lot better than my first backgrounds, that's for sure. Next we have this really nice large Boyds forest dragon enclosure. So this is by Timothy, and he's got a YouTube channel as well. I'll leave a little link to it there. And yeah, wow, look at the size of this thing. Absolutely awesome. It really reminds me that I need to make a bigger setup for my adult Boyds. You know, not the most active animals in the world, but you know, they just look awesome in such a big space. Got a few live plants and things in there. A lot of branches for them to climb all over, and I'm sure it's so much fun watching them in this big setup. So here's another one from Timothy again, and I just love how much space he gives these animals. You know, this is for a green tree python, obviously. A lot of people want to shove them in some little small boxes because they don't move much, they don't do too many things, but if you give them space, they're going to use every inch of it, and they're going to be much healthier, happier animals because of it. Green tree pythons especially, you know, if you look at that recent video that the Natural Herp Keeper did on them out in the wild, you see just how much they move, how much distance they travel, how fit and active they are, and you're only going to achieve that sort of animal when you give it a nice big enclosure like this. So next up we have this sort of outdoor pit for some Cunningham skinks, and you know, simple design, outdoor enclosure. I love it, of course. There's a few plants in there. I love the way they have the rocks stacked up in the back there. It looks like there's some crevices and things that the animals can get down into. And they've tried to disguise what looks like a wooden hide or something under there, so I really like that. Something I really need to do more with some of my outdoor blue tongue pits is to cover up some of their big hide boxes and things to make them blend in a lot more. Again, this is another way you can make an outdoor enclosure, really simple, with some, looks like some wooden sleepers, and it's just got a mesh lid on the top. So next we have something a bit different, but something I'm sort of jealous of. This is a crocodile enclosure by Nick from Wicked Wildlife. Again, shout out to Nick, he makes some awesome educational videos. And yeah, this is a setup for some little freshwater crocs, so a bit different to the sort of normal style setups you'd usually see. And he's sort of got a progression photos here of how he made it. It's obviously got a big wooden frame, nice big pond area, nice land area with some tiles and some rocks by the looks of it to help absorb some heat during the day so the animals can come out and bask. Yeah, that's really cool. I like how he used the sort of sheeting of tin on the back and side. Next, this is another incredible enclosure by Timothy again, and this is for some Tristis, so some black-headed monitors. Wow, looks like it has that shaved bark, shade sail thing from Bunnings along the edges where the animals can climb all over. As you can see here, there's one of the Tristis climbing all over the background there, and a simple thing like that just gives the animal so much more ability to use its entire setup. And then the setup itself, you know, you look at all these big hollow logs. I'm sure they took a while to source, but those animals are going to love living in those tree hollows. Being a type of tree monitor, I suppose, these guys are going to be in and out of those all day. Looks like some two big heat lamps there. These guys like it really hot. 2 different basking spots. I think he's got multiple animals in here, so it's good to diversify those basking areas so animals aren't, you know, hogging those spots. And up the top there you can see there's a big UV light as well. And I love the space. I love how he designs these enclosures with that big glass front at the bottom. Nice big viewing area for it. It's really cool, and just as you guys know, I just absolutely love giving animals space, so this makes me really happy. This one's actually quite cool. So this is a enclosure for a bearded dragon, maybe their first setup as well. So again, a pretty good job at some mock rocking on the back there, and it looks like a bioactive setup as well with some plants and things like that. But the most interesting part about this setup is that this person hasn't even gotten the bearded dragon yet. That's what I absolutely love to see. Plan your setup, make your setup, get it all dialed in, get it all correct, then go get your animal and pop it in and see how it goes. A much better way of going about things, and you know, big tick from me, A+. Next we have these really cool setups. So these are for some rough-scaled pythons. These are from Darren Boswell, and you can see those big UV tubes on top there. And what I love about these setups is how he's again made some rock backgrounds for it. But there's not just a background, it actually comes right out on these big shelves which the animals can fully utilize. So if we look at this photo here, you can see there's a rough scale python out on the side there, and it's sitting on this big shelf. Now it can go right under that shelf, right between all these other ones. I love all those different sort of ways that it can use the space. Next we have this video by Luke showing off his new reptile room since he just moved place. So first off, we have this awesome looking naturalistic Boyds forest dragon enclosure. I'm pretty sure that Boyds forest dragon actually came from me, so that's really cool to see it go to a good home. I love all the live plants and things he's using. He's really got a good eye for the naturalistic detail. So here's a blackhead python enclosure, tons of leaf litter, some nice red sand, some good logs she can hide under. Very cool, nice dried grasses and things. I love that. You guys know I don't really use fake plants anymore. I absolutely love using real plants, whether they're, you know, dried and dead or alive and growing. I just think it looks so much better. And wow, what a cool setup. You can see those animals are thriving in there using that hollow log. That's awesome. Next we have a smooth knobtail gecko. Again, nice red sands, some grasses. This guy's got a really good eye for some naturalistic setup. Here's one of his blue tongues, giving him a bit of a grumpy look. Lots of leaf litter. Nice dense enclosure. The animal has lots of places to feel secure and hide in, dig around. So much enrichment for him. Look at that. Now another outdoor enclosure. This one is really cool. I wish I had a nice brick house like this where I could just slab a fence to the side of it and let all the skinks roam wild in there. That's really cool. You can see out from these windows too, I bet, and check what everyone's doing. This big hide in the back here. I assume this is for some blue tongues and things. This one sort of threw me off a little bit because I was like, what are those snakes? And then I realized there's some death adders. So first venomous enclosure I've seen from a fan. So very cool, nice rock background again. Looks like a bit of a slab here that they can bask on and hide underneath. And some leaf litter and things as well, which I'm sure they love camouflaging under. And next, this is just a simple baby enclosure for some angleheads, I believe it was. And again, you don't have to go super crazy with things, you know, it's just a simple live plant in the middle, some nice branches, a background, and you know, keep it simple, it can still look great. And here's a really cool enclosure by Kai, and he's made this for some rough knob-tailed geckos. Now I really quite like the rock carving on this one. I'm not sure what it is about it, just looks really cool. And I really like the colour of it too, the colours he's put into those rocks and all that gravel and stuff that matches in the bottom to really tie it all together. Here's another one from Kai again. He's got a Woma python here, and sitting underneath the Woma python, he said there's sort of a ceramic tile or a terracotta pot rather, with some heat cord wrapped in it, and it creates like sort of a hot spot for it, as well as being under a heat projector as well. I love this termite mound off to the side with an entrance hole there she can go hide in. Again, a nice background. Again, a simple setup, but really makes it work and look naturalistic. This is another cool background and setup for a albino Darwin by the looks of it. I just love the contrast of that really bright snake on the really dark rock. I don't know why. So this is a diamond python enclosure again from Darren Boswell, and I love the detail he's put into it, all the different rocks and everything. The branches. Diamonds really deserve a lot of space. They're such a great snake. These guys aren't full grown. You can see if I zoom in, there's the one there climbing around. They'll use all that space, and Yeah, what a nice little setup for these guys while they're growing up. This enclosure is pretty badass looking, not gonna lie. I really like the rock work, especially at the back here. All that cracking and small detail work, and it's not even finished yet. This is for a Mertens water monitor, and I can't wait to see it once it's fully done. So this is a really interesting one. Now, this is for an eastern blue-tongued skink. Again, it's a pretty, you know, simple sort of setup, but what I love about it is it has fake plants and a lot of hidden features about it that you wouldn't expect. Instead of trying to maintain the plants in the soil and everything like that, they actually have them in pots still. So if we go to the next photo, we can see here, they're actually still potted, and then they're just covered in soil all the way up to that level to basically conceal them. Then as well, with their rock hides and everything like that, they've got them propped up on these supports. That way, if the bluey tries to dig under it, it's not gonna get crushed or anything like that. And it gives a nice stable support. I really like that idea. I might have to steal that for a few of my enclosures. It's a good way to keep the plants alive and also give the blue tongue more things to do. Now I'm very impressed by this setup. Again, another one by Luke at Beach's Scaly Beasts. And this one was actually inspired by my Pygmy Python enclosure build for an animal that's from the same sort of region. So you can see the little gecko right in the front there. It looks absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to see his video on this whole setup. Very cool. He's got a live plant there and some really nice rock work going on, so awesome job, Luke. I'm not sure what species is in here, but it's another really cool enclosure. Again, using that shelf sort of technique, and the snake's hiding up on the top there, getting some heat and UV possibly. And this enclosure is, wow, incredible. I'm not even sure what's in there, or what's gonna go in there, but it appears to be all one thing. Could be wrong, but it's all, you know, fake wood and things like that on the sides. Some homemade sort of jungle vines and things from rope and things by the look of it. It's yeah, a mansion of a setup. There's even a water section here. I've seen a video where it's spurting out water as well, and yeah, talk about going above and beyond. And what I really love about this is actually when you look down below, you can see it's on wheels. I love having all my enclosures on wheels. Makes it really easy to move around and shift to new places and get behind there to clean or anything like that. Now, this one's for some White's tree frogs. This is submitted by John Courtney Smith, and massive shout out to John Courtney Smith for all the continued effort he does for the reptile hobby. And he's put in a lot of effort for this enclosure as well. So he lives in the UK, and this enclosure is all Australian pretty much. So all native Australian plants, leaf litter, branches as well, I believe. And it's fully decked out with all the lighting and everything that, you know, John's known for. And it's really come together quite well. I can't believe the amount of effort he put into it, and this is basically his whole philosophy, so very good work, John. Here we have a Gillen's monitor enclosure again, some nice rock work for it to run all over, giving it that extra space. And then here we actually have a tree skink enclosure, and again it just goes to show it doesn't have to be that much of a complicated setup, but using natural decor, leaf litter, branches, everything like that can really go leaps and bounds for a really good look. And this one, you guys know I have a soft spot for mountain dragons. I love this species. This is a pretty cool little setup for them. So got a nice universal rock background by the look of it, some nice branches for them to run around on, some rock stacks for them to hide in, and a few live plants and things, and a very chunky little mountain dragon. This thing is a heifer, look at it. Here we have another blue tongue enclosure, pretty decked out with some fake plants by the look of it. And they put them together quite well. Now this enclosure is pretty cool. I believe it's another albino Darwin carpet, and it's up right there in the corner, up there in one of the crevices. And you think that's pretty cool, and then you zoom out even further, it's an absolutely monstrous tank, and the person's just there chilling out with a drink, watching their snake do its thing. That's what it's all about, enjoying the animals in an awesome big space where they are free to do what they want to do. We've got a nice bearded dragon enclosure. Again, it's a lot bigger than your typical sort of size people keep their beardies in, which I love. A nice background for it to run around on, and some actual hides as well that it can go under or sit on top of to bask. And this is where things get really exciting for me. A nice big blotchy pit. So a whole bunch of awesome blotchies sitting out in the sun, soaking it all up. I love when they make these big congregations like this. And just look at how big the enclosure is and all the plants and everything. You can just tell they're thriving in there. I love keeping animals outdoors in this sort of setting. Now this is a very cool angle-headed dragon enclosure, very heavily planted. I don't know how they've managed to do that. Every time I try and use plants with my forest dragons, they beat the crap out of them to the point where they just die, or just holding on for life. This is a nice little 3-bay as well. I believe it's got a Tristis in the top, an Aki in the middle, and a Woma down the bottom. Some nice rock work again, and it all sort of has the same theme, which I quite like. Talk about space. This is a massive pit for a whole bunch of different things. You can see some shinglebacks over there running around. There's actually quite a few shinglebacks. Wow, a big, pile of logs and everything for them all to cruise around into. Bit of some ponds for drinking, bits of tin, definitely reminiscent of the Aussie wild. And yeah, I'd love to have something this big in my yard. I can't even imagine how many lizards are actually in there. I couldn't even count them all. And this enclosure is very cool. Again, it was another one that's inspired by my Pygmy Python build. This is actually for a Pilbara rock monitor, which is a species I would absolutely love to keep, but unfortunately we're not allowed to have them here in New South Wales. But nevertheless, this is a really cool enclosure. Again, with that Pilbara vibe, there's the beautiful little monitor itself. And it has all these cracks and crevices and things for it to squeeze into and live its life. I absolutely love it. Now these enclosures all tie together really well. I love the whole aesthetic of it. It all matches and it's really nice. I believe up the top was some Gillen's monitors and then some spotted tree monitors, and then down the bottom is some Boyds forest dragons. I just love the natural gritty sort of look of it all. Now these enclosures I think were sent through to tease me. This is TC Houston of Reptile Mountain TV showing off his brand new outdoor enclosures. Stoked that you finally got some stuff outside, TC, but you're really rubbing it in that I can't keep any tortoises here in Australia. There's one of the little devils right there. They're so adorable. I wish we could have tortoises so bad. You guys are very lucky overseas with some of the things you can keep. I often get asked, what's the one thing you'd want to keep that's not Australian if you could? And it's definitely a tortoise. So awesome work, TC. I hope they're doing awesome out there. I really like the design of those setups. Can't wait to see them in some videos in the future. Now here we have, again, some quite simple setups, but they're made in a way that looks, aesthetically pleasing. So these are for some Pygmy spiny tail skinks. And again, just a simple rock stack, some red sand, and some nice dried plants. And really, when you're replicating desert enclosures, you don't have to make it too complicated. The desert's, the same formula for a lot of the time. It's red sand, rocks, and some dry dead plants. So very nice, and they all match together quite well. This is actually made from an old bed frame, so you can see it down the bottom here. And he's, put wire around it and some other brackets and things, and it's quite a cool little setup for some outdoor animals. Now here we have something that you don't really see very often. This is actually for a white-lipped snake. So these are a mildly venomous species, and I assume this person's down in Tassie, that's why they have it. There's not a whole lot of diversity of species down in Tassie that they can keep. So if you want to see some of the other awesome enclosures I didn't get to show in the video, head over to the Facebook page, look through the comments, add your own if you like, and maybe I'll make another video in the future. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted photos. I learned a lot from it, and that's really what it's all about, seeing other people's viewpoints, seeing where everyone is in the progression of reptile keeping, and all learning from each other. So let's all continue to improve our reptile care, and I'll see you guys next time.